Okay, welcome to the Writing Gals. We are four sweet romance authors staying up late, but Amy couldn't join us tonight. And so it's just me and Judy and Michelle. And we tried to do our normal on air Google Hangouts thing, and it's canceled. And we didn't realize that till the last second. And so someone is allowing us to use their Zoom room. Thank you very much. And we'll just.
I think her name is Tamara or Tamara.
Tamara. Thank you, Tamara.
Tamara's our best friend right now.
She is. We really appreciate that. So we're kind of a little disconnected here because we tried to do this and it didn't work. And so here we go. But before we get into it, our subject for tonight is when things get hard, which works just perfectly for tonight. Let's go ahead and talk about what we've been up to. So Michelle, do you want to tell everybody what you've been doing?
I've been doing a hard thing. I've been trying to write during summer vacation. Most of that spent traveling on the road, and it's been crazy. And I'm cutting myself a lot of slack. I'm like, you know what? I didn't get any words written for like a week and a half when I planned to write every single day. So that's where I am, and I'm just going to change my self-imposed deadlines and move everything back another week, and that's okay because it's all a learning process, and I'm making things happen still. It's just slower than I originally planned.
Exactly.
So I'm writing Summer of First Kisses series, and I'm trying to release them as rapidly as I can. I think it's going to end up being every 4 weeks instead of every 3 weeks like I hoped, but that is okay. My second book is out, and third book is in progress.
Fantastic. That's so great. Judy, what have you been up to?
So I have been making myself crazy, trying to finish my book, but I finally did finish it on 2 nights ago, whatever day that was. I don't even know. So I finished that book. It was supposed to be shorter and easier because I wasn't adding all these issues, but it was just as hard and just as long as all the other
Oh man.
But it, hopefully it'll be good. I just got the email tonight that my proofreader is done with it, so I get to go and hopefully get it all finished up and uploaded because it is supposed to be published on Wednesday, and it's a pre-order, so I don't know how many days early I need to have it, so I gotta hurry and finish that. But that's pretty much what I've been doing, and a lot like what Michelle said, pushing back the deadlines because that was supposed to be finished a month ago. So yeah, I don't know. That's life, that's summer, that's whatever. And yep. So
that's how it goes sometimes, right? When life gets hard, push the deadline. Yeah. Well, and I've been working on my series for the Rockford High series, young adult. And I just finished the third one in the series, and it just came back from the proofreader. And that'll go live on the 15th, and I'm super excited about that. And started writing on the next one in the series, and just having a ton of fun with it. So that's what I've been doing.
It's awesome.
All right, so let's jump into tonight's podcast on what to do when things get hard. And our very first question is, how do you deal with comparing yourself to other writers, especially when they're doing better than you are?
I don't actually manage to not do this, so.
Right.
I mean, I think the truth is that we're all going to do it. And as much as we try and say, don't do that, you do. And so it's more like, how do you deal with it when you do compare yourself? And part of it's just a lot of healthy self-talk, I think, just like, they're my friend, I can be happy for them, I'm going to be happy for them, and I am doing good things. Just because I'm not doing what they're doing doesn't mean I'm not, accomplishing what I'm setting out to do, and my path and my mountain are going to be different than other people's, and it's okay, and it's actually a good thing. And that's what is really hard to understand, is we are all on a path that is guided by our particular circumstances and our particular gifts and our particular goals. And you can't have all of those things be unique to you and expect to be getting what someone else is getting. And you just have to trust that you're going to be able to get or achieve these successes that you're striving for. And don't be trying to jump ship and go and get somebody else's reward for the work that they're doing. You got to focus on what you're doing and what your rewards will be.
Right. And we all have different capacities, right? And we all have different goals and different things we're doing. And it really is, for me, a conscious choice that I have to make, not to be jealous or not to feel bad about where I'm at in my writing career compared to other people. And if I can make that conscious choice that I'm not going to let those thoughts enter my mind, that I'm going to praise myself for the job I am doing and be happy with where I'm at, then I'm much more happier overall.
Yeah, I agree with all what you guys said. This, like, remember you have your own strengths and your own and things that you're dealing with, and just compare. Like, the best thing is just try to compare yourself to yourself, and so that helps me a lot, because I'm and maybe you're not always better than you were the day before, because I'm not always better either, but just realize that life is a journey, and you'll have your ups and downs, and sometimes you'll be doing better and sometimes other people will be doing better at a certain thing, and it's okay.
Definitely.
It's good to have a cheerleader that you can call and say, remind me that I'm awesome because I don't feel like it right now.
Yeah, like, that's when I go find my 5-star reviews and, like, okay, it's worth it.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. How do you deal with writing burnout, or how do you avoid it altogether? And how do you know if it's just burnout or if it's something more serious like depression?
So I've burned out. I think I'm burned out right now. I think I just
Oh.
So, but the ways in the past that I've tried to avoid it is to give myself breaks. Like, when I'm not on, like, a super crazy deadline, I really do try to take off like Saturdays, Sundays every week, because I know that I need that. Not everyone needs to take 2 full days off. They can just write and everything's great. But for me, I do have to take those days off. And then I also try to, just have my work hours be my work hours and then be done for the day with that. And just not try to push myself farther than I can. So I'll try to like set a lower word count goal, because when I set those crazy high ones, it just makes me crazy and I'm pushing myself too hard. So if I do like 2,000, I've worked myself up to 2,000 words a day and I can handle that, and then I'm good. I don't need to do more. And then dealing with burnout, just take it one day at a time, set small goals, like really small goals, and just try to increase from there. But give yourself some time to relax, because writing is a lot of brain work and we need to take care of that.
Definitely. I know for me, if I am outputting a lot, I also need to input a lot. So I'll tell my husband, I've been writing all day. I need a movie or something, that I can take in some story rather than just putting out all the story. So I read a lot and I watch a lot of movies and things like that in my genre to kind of refill that burnout.
Yeah, I've been watching The Bachelorette over the past couple of days, so that's been helping a little bit.
Nice.
I've been watching a murder mystery series on Netflix. Woohoo! Funny enough. So to talk about the burnout versus depression thing, I think if it's burnout, it's specifically related to your writing. So if I'm feeling a resistance in my mind, that my mind just doesn't want to work on this book, but I'm perfectly happy to sit down and read a book, or maybe write on another project, or maybe, paint or craft or whatever, then I know it's work related. If it's where I don't feel like doing anything and I just can't get out of bed or make myself move, then that is depression. So you need to be able to see, is this affecting me across my life right now? Or is it only related to this, to my job or to my specific story? And that's one way I would think you would be able to tell if it's depression versus just burnout. And I definitely do feel both, at different times. And with burnout, which I'm coming to try to recognize the early signs of right now, it's important to definitely be able to nip it in the bud before it turns into a full-on, crash where you just have to take a lot of time off to recover. So it's good to notice, hey, I'm struggling right now to make myself work on this. So I need to rejuvenate myself somehow and do it early on before it gets bad. With depression, you need to reach out to family and professionals to see how they can help you to get through, a much different set of needs that you have with that, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Don't be afraid to go see your doctor about it. All right. What do you do if you get criticism and it shuts you down? This is a fun one. We all feel this way sometimes, I think.
I usually try. Oh, go ahead.
You start. Oh, okay. You got more words out than I did.
Okay. I guess I usually try to take a step back, definitely, and give myself some space. Maybe take a few days or weeks off of that project if I have to. If I'm feeling like the criticism is really hurting my ability to work on that book, and then just give myself space and then come back to it and see if that criticism was right and I was just being really sensitive, or I don't know, talk to my husband, complain, vent.
That's what they're there for, right?
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of people posting successful authors saying things in random places that they have this feeling that if they take into consideration what other people do with or tell, do you guys hear my go away, Coco? Okay. So that if too many people are trying to be, I'm going to mute. Victor, you talk.
Oh yeah, we have that problem here too sometimes. So yeah, for me, if I get a particularly harsh critique and it kind of injures me, I do what Judy does and I just kind of step back for a little bit, and I kind of have to go through this process of almost the grieving process where I deny it at first, and then I eventually come to accept that what they said has merit, and I need to really look at it and try and take it for helpful advice and not hurtful advice.
So my kids are in bed this time of night, but my cats are just waking up. So I was going to say that these other authors are saying, if I let my editors change my work too much, or I let my critique group get in my head too much, or beta readers or whatever, or reviews, that it starts to impact their ability to write in general, and that they've come to realize that even if something isn't, what someone else would do doesn't mean it's wrong. And so we always have to find that line between listening and taking, criticism and learning from it, and going ahead and saying, okay, so I'm going to analytically decide and not emotionally decide if this is something that I need to use or keep. And if you feel really strongly that what you were doing was okay, and that it's your style and it's what your readers like, then go for it and don't let it cripple you. But, even if you decide to make those changes, you don't have to look at it like, well, I'm so stupid and I'm so untalented and that's why I make these mistakes and I always have to have other people help me fix them. I mean, we all would love to just be perfect the first time we write something, but none of us are ever going to be. And everything is so subjective anyway with writing. And so don't ever let criticism about your work change your perception of who you are and what you're doing and what your abilities are. It just means, that there are some tweaks that can be considered. And if you can really separate the emotions and the business of being criticized, then it will help you to deal with it. And I always just go ahead and let myself steam for a while and gripe about it. And then I move on.
Yeah. And then another thing, like if sometimes you can also just be in it like a critique group or whatever that is toxic, that's just not a good place to be. And like I was in one a few years ago that it just wasn't a good fit anymore, and so I just removed myself from the group. So yeah, sometimes you have to do that also and find other people that work better with you and could be helpful instead of hurtful.
Exactly. All right. How do you weather through the slow sales months? And do we have any strategies to overcome those slow sales months?
Write another book.
Yeah, that's right.
That's my strategy.
There's always those months that, you can't just always just be going up, 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 up. There, you have some high months and it's going to come crashing down. So it's hard to weather those.
Yeah.
I stopped checking my sales as often because it's just no fun. When I'm making money and sales are up, I'm like, ooh, let's check it again. And when they go down, I'm like, yeah, I don't need
I really want to see that.
I don't see what's going on today. And it's always a reminder, like, I should have taken care of this, a month ago. I should have had something lined up. And right now my sales are declining. And even though I'm releasing books, and a lot of it's because I just was too focused on the writing and didn't set up enough promos or any promos. In fact, if you look at my daily calendars, it's like, set up promos. Okay, try again, set up promos today. And I will go a whole week and I never get it done. And it's killing me now. So, do the work ahead of time. I've said this before on a post on our group pages. Publishing is all about what you can do today to make money next week or a month from now or a year from now. There's very little you can do the day of to make money. And so it's always forward thinking. And I definitely am trying to track which months are low sales months so that I can do what I can to lift myself up. And they may never be stellar. And maybe if I'd done those same things in a different month, I would have made even more money. But I do try to look ahead. And traditionally, a lot of people say that December is a low month, but it's been my best month of the year the last 2 years, because I know, okay, people aren't going to necessarily be buying all my other romances, but they're going to buy my Christmas romances like crazy. So what can I give them? What new romances can I put out? What promos can I do? It's all about Christmas for me at December. And, in January, January's a good month, but then there's February right after that. So in January, I put out a box set so that it would help lift my February, and it did. And, you just got to think ahead, because they're going to happen and your sales are going to go up and down all year long. You just have to prepare for it ahead of time and be strategic.
Perfect. Great answer. All right. How do you handle it when family or friends don't understand you're working while you are writing?
I don't know.
That's a mystery.
Yeah. I say, go away. I'm working right now. Don't you want to eat next week? I have to pay for this house.
I actually had a friend who, I'm pretty sure they're never going to watch this podcast, but I'm not going to say their names, obviously, who wanted me to babysit for them so they could save money on daycare. And they specifically had this conversation, and I came back and said, well, I can watch them for one day a week for 3 weeks or something, because that's what I was willing to do. And the wife told me later about our cats tonight. They're just like all over the place. Jenny, where's your cat? Oh, wait, you have a dog.
Yeah, we just did it.
Dogs don't climb up on your shoulders.
Yeah, and she's locked out of the room.
Anyway, and the wife said that her husband's like, well, she just stays home and writes all day, doesn't she? Like, it's not that big a deal. And she's like, I think it's a pretty busy profession and probably takes a lot of concentration and focus. And she was trying to explain to him, like, what I do. And I was like, well, at least, like, recognize this is a real job and it takes time with my butt in a chair looking at my computer, not chasing kids around. And I think somebody specifically mentioned babysitting in our Facebook group, like when people ask you to babysit. And I always try to help people out when I can, but there does come a time where you just have to say no. And we've been teaching Victorine how to say no too.
Yeah.
It's a year of learning to say no to people.
Yeah, you just have to, like, sometimes you just have to be really blunt and explain, like, this is my job. I have to work. I'm not available during these times, just like, you when you're at work. I can't just come and ask you to do whatever.
Can you watch my kid while you're at work today?
Yeah. I really have to write really badly. Could you just please watch my 4 kids? Yeah, so you just have to be firm and just, I don't know, I've heard of some people like, well, like I don't really have an office, so I have this thing on the door. I'm like, please keep door shut so mom can work. So I try to put little reminders, but lately I've just brought my stuff into my room and just shut the door because I don't have like a real office. It's just like downstairs. So yeah.
I think one thing that is also important is with our immediate family is that we do have to recognize that they do need time from us and they need mental ability to like disconnect and focus on them. And that's something I'm constantly struggling with because I do get so consumed by my stories that, they're kind of playing in my head all the time. And it's hard for me to just turn off that switch and pay attention. And I think that's also kind of a gift that writers have, is that even while we're washing the dishes or cooking dinner or running our kids to doctor's offices, we can be working in the background, and I get some of my best breakthroughs that way. So it's just always a really hard balance. But what I try and do is I try and sense or hear when they're saying, I need your time and I need your attention, and then I give that to them and respond to them. And I also try and say, okay, if I can have this amount of time to finish this deadline that I'm late at, then I will have these days or this week that we can do these things, and it's just making sure that there's an even trade-off for them, and remember that my kids, even though I am devoting time to this, they're also seeing the benefits or the example of having someone chase their dreams and work really hard to achieve it. And I think that is something that they're learning a lot from, that they can see that you can go after the things you really want to do in life and make it happen, but that it takes work and it takes time and it's not something that's just handed to you. So I think there's also some real benefits to teach our kids, those important lessons.
I agree 100%. Definitely. And you can tell, I think, when they're just bothering you just to bother you and when they need you. So yeah, giving them a little bit extra attention and then saying, okay, now I have to go do my work. I think that's a great idea. All right, how do you find the time to write when you have family, job, other things going on? And how do you not feel guilty when you take the time to write?
So I, for a lot of years before I was doing this more full time, I would like schedule days with my husband for me to work. So like I'd have like a Saturday a month where I could write, or like an evening every week that was mine just to work. So just try to schedule time with the people in your life. That helps. And how do you not feel guilty when writing? Well, I have to pay the bills, so I don't feel guilty anymore. It has to happen. So, but
Yeah, I think some of it is mindset, right? If in our mind we're thinking, well, this will never be profitable and this is just something, a hobby that I love to do, um, then you're kind of selling yourself short. But if you, in your mind, you're like, this is my job and I'm going to do this every day until this is profitable, then you can treat it more like your job. And if you have a full time job, you're going to have to schedule your writing time, because if you just say, well, when I feel like it, I'm going to write, then it's just going to be really impossible to get that book done. So I would say get up, half an hour early and just work or do a 20-minute sprint if that's all the time you have. um, I can get 500 words down in 20 minutes. Amy can get 1,000. So the more you work at it every day, the faster you'll become. And yeah, it's just one of those things you have to schedule and tell yourself this is worthwhile.
So I think if all of us took a really hard look at our lives, we would see things that we can cut out. Like we feel like all we do is work or all we do is take care of kids. But I think all of us have some things in there that we can cut out if we're willing to sacrifice them. And so when I was still at home with small children and I was trying to write, I sacrificed a lot of my own personal things. So I pretty much stopped watching television. I stopped watching movies except on rare occasions when I needed, a break. Or I stopped painting, I stopped sewing, I stopped crafting, I stopped doing like all of these projects, like hobbies. And it was just for this little season of my life that I had. It wasn't forever. I'm picking all those things back up again now that my situation has changed. But for that period of time, I didn't have time to do all the things. And so I picked the thing in my life that was most important to me in my personal pursuits, and that was writing. And that meant that when I had a spare moment, I wasn't wasting it binging an episode of something or a series on Netflix. I was working on a story. And over time, that built into something, and I don't regret the shows that I didn't watch, because now I have this backlist of books and I have all the stuff that I've learned that you can only learn by writing. And I've built a career that is now a full-time career now that I am going to be, not a stay-at-home mom anymore. I'm going to be a full-time writer in 13 days. And I know. So if I hadn't done all that work and sacrificed, then I wouldn't be where I am now. So that's what it is. My family doesn't need to sacrifice for my dream. I need to sacrifice for it. And that's the way I always looked at it. And the other thing is that if you do have 20 minutes to write or you do have 30 minutes to write, you don't want to sit down and spend that time not writing, not knowing where you're going. And so I always tried to have, a whiteboard or a notebook or something around, and I had a mission. Like, okay, what is this next scene going to be about? What's going to happen? What's the conflict? What hook do I need to have at the end? And I would be thinking about all those things while I was cleaning up, Legos, or while I was changing diapers or whatever I was doing. My head work was going to prepare me for that short amount of time I had to sit down, and I would already know what I was doing so that I was ready to go and not, just like, oh, what am I going to do?
That helps me too. I do that like when I'm showering or just mindless things. I'll be thinking about my next scene and dialogue and stuff that I want to have happen.
Yeah,
definitely
I
helps.
do that when I'm being good. Other times I just sit, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. A lot of time at the computer. So
Yep. All right. How do you be patient with your body when you have aches and pains from writing and still need to meet your deadlines? Or if you're sick, how do you write through that?
I've started standing a lot more when I write because I have back pain.
Ah,
But just taking breaks and with meeting my deadlines. I know I'm not going to write a book every month, so I just put my deadlines where I know I'm going to be able to make them.
Yeah, be realistic with your deadline. That's good.
My husband scheduled a deep tissue massage for me for after school starts
Nice.
because my back and my neck and my shoulders are a wreck right now.
Oh.
They're just like knotted with tense muscles right now. It's a mess, and we can't do that to ourselves. And so, yeah, I've learned that I use different methods to try and keep all of the tension and muscle issues like under control, including taking breaks. But as soon as my kids are off to school, I'm going to be walking and going back to the gym. I haven't been doing that. I don't just think it's good for us, to be able to get the exercise physically, but I think it's really good for our brains. I always come back charged and ready to write and, with a lot of thoughts already in order when I go work out. But I was going to say about the, what was the second part of the question?
How do you write when you're sick?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't write when I'm sick.
It depends on how sick I am. I remember I lost 2 weeks of my life to the flu last spring. Like, I wasn't aware of hardly anything except my husband bringing me something to drink and the kids occasionally coming in to say, "Mommy, are you going to be okay?" I hope so. It was bad. Sometimes you just get sick, and sometimes, you just have to say, okay, this is what it is, and everything will eventually be okay. Like that was a deadline for me that I got sick. And you know what? I didn't make my deadline, and life went on.
Yeah.
I would say, a lot of people suffer with chronic illnesses, though, and I think that that's really hard because it's not a 2-week thing or 3 days of stomach bug. It's the rest of your life, and you're staring it down and you're like, how do I make this happen? How do I still achieve this dream of mine when I'm always going to be in pain or sick? And man, my hat's off to everybody that can do anything in that kind of situation. But I think just work with your health professionals and just experiment and try things and celebrate every success along the way. Every little thing that you're able to do is a victory, and you should be very, proud of yourself. And that goes for, any kind of emotional and mental disorders that people have too. You were given some extra obstacles that you have to get over to be able to write, and that doesn't mean that you can't, but just don't compare what you're doing to what other people are able to put out. If other people are healthy in whatever way that means, they're going to have an easier time accomplishing something that you're going to have to work extra hard for. But I really feel like your success will be that much sweeter to you when you make it. So it's hard.
Good answers. All right. How do you not get discouraged when you feel like you're doing everything right, your story, your blurb, your cover, but it's not translating into sales? Well, for me, if I were to answer this, I would say there's probably a weak link somewhere in there that you need to find and root out. And it may be hard. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out. Is it because I'm not putting in popular tropes? Is it because, there's not enough conflict in my story? What is it that is keeping those sales from coming? Because if you are doing everything right and you're writing something that people want to read, then it should be selling. So I would say try and find that weak link, even if you have to, get some people who are selling well to look at it and give you advice.
And I do get discouraged. I mean, I don't think there's a way to not get discouraged It's just another one of those tough emotions you're going to have to accept and work through. I've had multiple books this year that haven't done as well as I've wished they would have. And, you know, the truth of the matter, that's not the end of my career. That's not the last book that I'm going to write. And so I do try and learn from it and try and figure out, you know, what it was that didn't hit right. But sometimes it's kind of a mystery. Sometimes, you know, the best, you know, you can get from other people's feedback or from your reviewers, that the reviews you have coming in, or, you know, everything you know about the market, it just seems like, okay, this should have worked, and it's not. And so all you can do is just move on and do something else. And sometimes it takes a series of multiple, you know, multiple failures in a row sometimes before you can even find what's going on. Sometimes it's the market. Sometimes it's just you launched when Amazon was fiddling with all of its behind the scenes stuff. I mean, you know, there's so many factors. And so you can't let, you know, something stop you. You just have to say, okay, this is what it is. I've got a whole career of me writing and putting books out. So I'm going to learn from it the best I can and just get started on the next one.
True. And sometimes you have to realize maybe your expectations were a little higher than they should have been too. Maybe it is selling, but not as good as your first book sold, you know, so maybe you need to figure out where your expectations need to be. All right. How do you get past feeling like you're not good enough or it's never going to happen to you?
I don't know. Just keep trying. Really. Because I felt that way for the first like 5 years of writing, because I was trying the traditional publishing thing and it just it wasn't happening. I queried hundreds of times and it just wasn't going anywhere. So you just have to keep trying and write another book and just keep going and have hope.
Yes.
If it's important to you, then you're going to want to keep doing it and keep working on your craft and keep trying to learn and try to see if there is a reason why it's not going the way that you wanted it to go.
Yeah, I think the thing about being good enough is kind of a tricky thing, because I think that anybody can be good enough. I think some people are born more talented than others, and I think some people work harder than other people, and I think some people have more staying power than others do, and success is a combination of all of those things. And so are you trying to improve your craft all the time? I think we don't talk about that enough because we are very focused on the publishing part of it, but all of us are honing our craft all the time. I mean, that's something that we've been doing from the beginning, continue to do, and no author is ever going to reach their full potential unless they are continually improving their craft. But that doesn't mean that you're not good enough for readers or you're not good enough to publish at almost any point in the publishing process. It's just going to limit, you know, if you're a new writer and you're unseasoned and you don't have the experience, you will not be selling and selling and selling tons of books, you know, but you will find readers, and you'll find readers who will hear your voice and appreciate your style and like what you have to say, and they'll look past some of your amateur writing and possibly poor editing. And I'm certainly glad they do, because if they didn't, I wouldn't have had as much encouragement to keep going, because that was me. That was me in 2011. I was the one with the amateur writing and the poor editing. And not a lot of readers found me, but the ones that did left me good reviews pointing out the things that they loved about my story, and that was enough for me to keep going. I wasn't necessarily good enough then by the standards that I have for myself now, but I'm glad I did it, because I found the beginning of my fan base and my platform, and I found encouragement. So that is one thing. And then tell me again the second part of the question.
Let's see.
I'm totally distracted because I have a 5-year-old crawling around on my living room floor.
How do you get past the feeling that it's never going to happen for you, that you're never going to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is just not accepting that, you're going to give up. Like, be in this for good. And that's kind of the thing. It's like success literally only happens to the people who keep at it. There are going to be a ton of writers watching this podcast and in our Facebook group and in your critique groups who are not going to find success as writers. It's going to happen that a lot of these people are going to give up. And that is the determining factor between the people who find success and the ones that don't, is who gives up and who doesn't. And so you just have to decide, I'm going to be one of the ones that doesn't give up. I'm going to be the one that sticks around and that learns from every failure along the way and keeps going. Because if you keep going, eventually down the road, it'll happen. But if you give up, you're certain to not be successful. So just make that decision right now that you're not going to give up.
Yeah, very true. And I would also say that if your 15th book takes off and starts selling really, really well, then you have 14 other books that people can pick up and read. If you're like me, where my first book took off, I had no other books out there to offer. So don't be discouraged if your first, second, and third book don't, take off like super high, because then you'll have a nice backlist to sell them when one of your future books takes off.
Yeah, I do want to add a caution though, because I do see some authors out there that are very prolific and put out a lot of books, but they're still struggling for the success. If you're putting out the same quality of book and doing everything the same way and you're not having success, at that point, continuing to push through it is only going to be successful if you're analyzing your situation. So if you're doing, the rapid release thing, or you've got a big backlist and you're just not finding success, then there's more to it. It's not just the staying power. That's important. Like, you have to do that, but you also need to say, okay, where do I need to improve? And I think too many authors are just pushing ads or pushing a new book or releasing again and going, that this is going to keep the money coming in. If you're not seeing the returns that you should on the effort you're putting in, then you need to stop and you need to look at your product. And maybe you think it's okay, but the numbers will tell you differently. So we just constantly need to be looking at not only the amount of our output or the quantity of it, but we need to be looking at quality. And I think too few authors are paying attention to the quality of their work.
Yeah.
If they get caught up in this rapid releasing and the kind of idea that what they're doing is good enough as far as it's sold before, so it'll always sell, or what I'm saying. So just always be looking at the quality of what you're doing and try to improve it all the time.
Yeah, I agree. If you're continuing to put out books and you're not seeing the numbers you should be seeing, then there is something that needs to be tweaked. Something needs to be changed. Definitely agree with that. How do you not resent the day job or your family obligations that keep you from writing?
I don't know. I'm listening to my kids cry out my door right now. So I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not resenting them. I'm just like, you've probably seen me like yelling at my kids. Oh, yeah. My husband is
It's hard when your husband's not in the house.
So yeah. How do you not resent it? I don't know. Go ahead, someone else.
Yeah. See, once again, it's just one of those things, like you're gonna have these feelings. Like you're going to, and you're just going to have to be like, okay, I'm feeling this feeling and this is what I'm going to do about it. So the last week and a half, you know what I've really resented? I've resented the fact that I've had all these things in my schedule that have cut my days into ribbons. I've had swimming lessons for my kids. I've had daughter needing to be taken to volleyball and picked up from volleyball. I've had doctor's appointments and tennis appointments and grocery shopping that needed to be done. And it just seems but that like I look at my day and it's an hour here, an hour there, an hour here, an hour there, and I'm just constantly, and so I'd never have like a block of time to write where I could just focus and settle in. And I resented that so badly. Like I just have everything in one part of the day and have one part of the day to work, and I didn't. And so all you can do is just say, this is what it is, you know, and keep moving forward.
Yep. It's mindset, I think a lot of it is. How do you get into the headspace to put words on the page when you're going through serious issues in your personal life? We kind of talked about this a little bit, if you have chronic pain or if you're sick, and how to try and find time to write through that. Personally, I think everybody has times in their life where you kind of have to focus on something else of what's going on. And if it's something very serious and you're having a hard time finding time to write, maybe you just need to take a break and go through, you know, the grieving process. If you've lost a loved one, or, you know, if you're struggling with something, even if it's not a death in the family, sometimes you have to go through the grieving process because your life has changed in a major way and you have to accept the new normal. So I think giving yourself some slack, taking some time off is okay. And then, you know, trying to find your new normal. How can you, you know, find time to write and get your head in that space, even when something else is going on?
I'll let your awesome answer stand.
All right. What do you do if a particular book is harder to write?
Victor, you just need to talk for a minute.
All right. I can talk for a minute. You guys have things going on. For me, if I have a book and I'm really, really struggling with it, I think there's something wrong with the book. So I had this happen to me actually with this last book that I was writing. And I went down a path and I just got stuck, and I knew this path wasn't going to work. And so I had to back up. I had to delete some words, which I hate deleting words. Everybody does. But I had to go back and change something in the story, and that made it flow again for me. And it was just a matter of, I had made a decision, and it was too early in the book. It was something that was revealed too early. And so it caused events to happen that should have happened later on in the book. And so I think if I'm struggling really hard with a particular book, I think it's something in the story that I need to change.
Yeah, sometimes I've had to just put a book aside and work on something else for a little while. And a lot of times it's just because, you know, like something was not working and I had to figure out how to fix it, and that just took some time, you know. And so I usually have 2 or 3 projects going on at any given time, and 2 of them are back burner projects that are not my priority, but they're great to just switch over. So I'm still accomplishing something, but sometimes you just have to give a book time.
Yep, I agree. How do you get past distractions that keep you from writing? For me, it's Facebook. I just want to scroll through Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is a killer, especially for us trying to run the Writing Gals group, because, you know, we need to be there and, you know, keep things going and do admin work and all that sort of stuff. And we are committed to it and we love the group, but, you know, it does take some time, and it's a very good excuse to get on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I don't do super well with avoiding distractions most of the time. I should probably be good and turn my internet off and and that sort of thing. And I'm probably going to have to be doing that soon because I am so far behind with my deadlines. But I think that I'm a procrastinator, and that means I'm very, very good at writing under pressure. And sometimes I almost can't perform unless I'm under pressure. And so I don't know if it's kind of like something that I do on purpose without realizing it, where I procrastinate so that I finally get to the point where I have to do it and I'm under pressure, because that's when I can usually turn it on and make things happen.
Yeah.
So if I've been tracking my word count by putting stickers in my calendar, and you can see that most of my words are always written at the end of the week because I've not done very good with my goals Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I'm like, I gotta do something. And especially when I've set a deadline for myself, I will just have like all the words the day before my deadline. And like over and over again, it's repeated that way. And I don't know, that's how I work. And I wish I didn't, but I do.
Yeah. For me, it's turning off the internet, trying to pinpoint what my distraction is, and trying to remove myself from that distraction. So if it's writing somewhere else other than at home, then that helps me. Or figuring out, okay, I need to set a timer and I'm just going to write during this timer and not look at the internet or anything else. So sometimes it's self-imposed, getting rid of your own distractions. And the very last question we have today: how do you transition from writing being a hobby and something you love to a job that you have to do even though when you don't want to do it?
Unfortunately, this isn't a very easy job to do when you don't want to do it.
Right.
So I would say you need to examine why you don't want to do it, because that's a problem.
Yeah.
You're either writing the wrong thing, don't care about what you write, or you are burning yourself out. So I would address that if you're feeling like you don't want to do it. If this ever becomes something that you don't want to do, then you're going to be dead in the water. So this isn't like, I used to work in retail, and I would have to go and put signs up when there were sales, and I could do that no matter how bad I hated it, and sometimes I had to be there at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to change signs overnight, and I would be dead tired and I hated it so bad, but I could still do that job when I hated it.
Yeah.
You can't write very well when you hate it.
Exactly.
So to address the root cause of that, for sure. And how when it, like, are they asking like how you move it from a hobby to a job, or like when do you know when to?
I think the gist of what she was saying was it was really fun when this was just a hobby, but now that it's a full-time job for her, it's a little harder to make herself work every day and write every day.
So I think it's important to think about it as being two separate things if you struggle with that. So think about the writing and keep it in the same realm of enjoyment where you had it before. And then publishing can be its own thing, and if you can try and disconnect the two, then it will be easier for you to say, writing is my fun thing. It's something that I love to do. And then, I'm going to work now, and it's time for me to put in my hours and do all the business things. So that's one thing I would try.
That's good. Yeah. And I agree, pinpointing why you don't want to write, or what is coming up in your story that you're excited to write, and write those scenes and figure out how to make every scene a scene that you really want to write. So that's all the questions we have for tonight. So we're going to go ahead and sign off, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and hopefully we'll figure out what we're doing next time. It's in 2 weeks. I think we're going to try this again, and we'll do some research and try and figure out what we're going to do, because we really like being live and taking questions and stuff live from you guys. And so hopefully in 2 weeks we'll figure this thing out.
Hope so.
For tonight, we'll just say good night and have a good day.
Thanks for staying up late.